Hey Bill, how's it going?
It's good, Kev. How are you? Welcome, everybody, to the Investor Guys podcast. What is this, episode 11, 12? You know,
I've
I,
lost track. I haven't even been putting episode numbers up anymore. I have to go back and count.
I
So
got to do that. We got to keep up with. I have a buddy that's on like 410, and I was like, "Holy cow!" And he goes, "You're going to be shocked at how fast you guys start hitting double and triple digits." And
yeah, we're at least double digits at
yeah,
least.
oh yeah,
But
yeah,
this
yeah. I know. We're 11 or 12
yeah,
anyway.
2 months
So
ago. So
you doing well?
I am doing great. I really
Man,
am.
those haircut.
I got my haircut, and I am happy that restrictions have been eased. Last week and this week, we have been hitting local restaurants, and first off because I miss eating out, but secondly because they really need the assistance also. They really need the business. Right now they're allowed to open at 25%. And
Yep.
I thought that it was probably going to be a waiting, a line at all these restaurants. And it really hasn't. Some of them have been okay, kind of busy, but most of them, even at 25%, have been empty. I think a lot of people are still hesitant to go out and do things. Here's the thing. These people have been operating at 0% capacity, takeout only, for the last almost 2 months now.
Yep.
In order for them to even be able to bounce back, they're going to have to operate at 100% for another 2 months. They're only allowed to operate at 25%, but because of what's going on, they're probably even less than that. They're probably closer to 5% or 7%. So I've been telling people, if you can, if you're in a position to do so, go out and patronize your local restaurants and businesses
Amen.
that have been closed down. And also remember that the people who are back at work, okay, they have been out of work for almost 2 months. So if you can tip them more, by all means do so. I've been leaving $20 tips on $10 checks and $50 tips on $20 checks because I know that these people need it. These, to start with, you don't make a whole lot of money in food service with a lot of these restaurants. You're on tips.
Yep.
If you don't have any business, then you've got even less money coming in. So if you're in a position to do so, be kind, pay it forward, because I promise you it comes back to you in spades. Pay it forward. So
Amen. Um, we have seen a couple of restaurants that were jammed but most of them, like what you're saying, are way below 25%. And the ones that we have seen that were really busy were the ones that had a 30 and under crowd before all this started, because they're very confident in the BS factor here, in their immune system. And so they get out. And so I encourage my friends. I had lunch yesterday with a couple of clients over in Dallas, great friends. And we met, and I said Dallas, they're in Arlington, which is out by DFW Airport. We met at a Mexican restaurant, and we sat on the patio. And I know that shocks you that we had Mexican food, but we sat on the patio
actually,
and
in Texas, it's not really Mexican food; it's Tex-Mex, right?
well, that's right. We have our own brand, which I
Yeah.
love, and so we're having food, and the lady goes, she goes, you don't seem to be real concerned about the virus stuff. Now they weren't wearing masks. I have yet to wear one. Don't intend to wear one. And I said, yeah, not. And we had that exchange, and the patio probably would hold about 50, and I'd say that they probably had some low end 15, high end 20 people there. And it was not a great patio day. So, but I was very encouraged that at least that part of the restaurant, like it was kind of normal looking. It was weird, all the servers wearing masks. Though I've been in this place for the last 10 years or so, probably once a month. And so there's a lady that's been there that has been there the whole time, and usually ends up being who waits on me. And she came over, and I said, I can still recognize you, right? She started laughing, but it's just weird. And I have a clip. And then we'll get on to real estate. I'm going to throw this out. I have a clip from Fauci in late January where he's on an interview TV show going, yeah, well, there's no reason that Americans should be wearing masks. First of all, they don't really help you hardly at all in preventing this or any other virus. They really don't, and we don't have the medical quality that would do that in mask, and they aren't available. So, and it'd be too expensive if they were. So yeah, that's just not something we Americans need to be doing. This was late January, and of course now he's one of the leading proponents of everybody on the planet's got to be masked. I'm so ready for that guy. He's like 164 years old. I'm ready for him to just fade off into the sunset, however that happens. So let's talk real estate.
Yeah. Well, one more thing on the mask. They've been saying that wearing a mask actually compromises your immune system.
Yeah.
Which seems counterproductive when we're talking about trying to avoid a virus, and we're going to compromise our immune system by wearing a mask that's supposed to be keeping us from getting the virus. I would rather have a stronger immune system to fight this virus off than be wearing a mask.
I'm sure we've already had some folks click off because we're being way too political here. Let's get into real estate.
Sorry about all that, people. And, about
real estate.
Life, So if you joined us on Monday, we were talking about basically accumulation. When you purchase real estate that you keep, okay, now there's kind of two sides of this because as Bill pointed out, when you are doing flips, you can fund any other portion of your real estate venture by doing flips. And you can easily do a few flips a year without having to stress out, kill yourself, or anything else. And you should be able to make $40,000 or $50,000 in most markets in profit on each flip. And the premise of the show on Monday was you can take that $50,000 and turn it into $1 million, more than $1 million cash, more than $1 million in equity in your portfolio, and millions of dollars of properties that you control in less than 10 years. So we wanted to go through some actual properties, and these are properties that I purchased back in November. And in November, I did a few of these videos, and I have one queued up, just the without the intro and everything else.
Right.
The numbers portion of this, okay, to go over it step by step so you can see how this actually works. Now, if you missed Monday's show, I'm investing in markets, buy and hold, okay, in markets that are giving me 50, 75%, even greater returns annually on my investments. And I'm investing, I'm going to tell you right now because it's not a secret, Cleveland is one of my favorite places to invest. And if you've been around the investing world for the last 10, 15, 20 years, you've been hearing Cleveland, 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 Cleveland. Now, I'm going to caution you right now, okay, because I've met many people who've just run and bought properties in Cleveland. Don't do that unless you are familiar with Cleveland, unless you're familiar with the market. Don't do that in any market unless you know where to buy properties and where not to buy properties and what your strategies are going to be, because you need to know what your strategy is going to be for each one of these properties. And in general, we have pretty much the same strategy for all of Cleveland. But again, don't just jump out there and say, well, Kevin's doing it and Bill's talking about it, so I'm headed off to Cleveland as soon as I get out of quarantine. If you want to learn how to do it, Bill and I will be in Cleveland in the next month or two, and we'll go over it step by step, even tell you which neighborhoods to buy and which neighborhoods to avoid. But
we're going to be buying some stuff while we're there. So
I buy things almost every week. In fact, up until about February, and not because of the coronavirus, just because I kind of shifted gears buying things here in Central Florida. I was buying 3 to 5 properties a week in Cleveland from California and from Florida from my desktop. So once you have the formula, once you know how it works, you don't have to be in Cleveland actually doing it. But whenever I love going to Cleveland. Cleveland is actually a great city. I love going to Cleveland.
One comment, when Kevin talks about 50 to 75% returns, I don't want anybody, rolling their eyes and flipping off. These are cash on cash returns, and you're going to see those numbers as we go through this. So I am when you are, brother.
All right. Let me just figure out how to do this really quick, because this is my first time sharing a screen on. There we go. Are you seeing that or no?
Excellent.
You see it?
Yep.
All right. So let me hit play.
For our third set of evaluations, just as our first and second, these are both going to be multifamily properties. Again, other strategies in this particular market, but this is our bread and butter. This is what I look for. all the time, day in and day out. Yes, great deals come along in commercial properties in this market, and great deals come along in larger residential properties, but I can literally open my computer and look at the MLS and find these properties. And better yet, I actually have agents in this market that are sending these things to me straight off of the MLS, but they know I'm going to work with them. I don't even have to work at finding these properties. 6-bedroom, 3-bath duplex. If you watched our first 2 evaluations, you'll see that we're working on the same premise here, full-size, 3rd floor, for an additional 2 bedrooms up there. 6 bedrooms, 2 on the 1st floor, 4 on the 2nd and 3rd. This happens to have a 3rd bath. A lot of times when someone finishes out the attic, they'll put another bathroom up there. Every once in a while, we'll see a bathroom in the basement also, where they'll finish out the basement. We don't consider rooms in the basement to be bedrooms. Those are just extra rooms, just benefit whatever for whoever wants to use them in this particular property. That's not the case here. This bathroom is actually on the 3rd floor. We just tapped into the bathroom below it. So this is going to give it a little more value, that bath. Exactly how much more value, I don't know. So I'm going to base it on minimum numbers for what I know for this market. I know we're going to get more because, like I said, there's a 3rd bathroom, 2nd bathroom for the top unit on the 3rd floor. $6,000 is the real down payment on this property. That's 20% down on a conventional loan. Minimum rents here are going to be $1,450. Again, don't doubt we're going to get more. Just how much I don't know. My property management company will be able to give me a better idea when they go take a look at it once we get this under contract. $129 is our mortgage. That's less than my car payment. Actually, I don't have a car payment, but that'd be less than my car payment if I had a car payment. 5% interest, $145 a month in the management fee. $100 for insurance, $100 for taxes. Both of those are high numbers. You're probably going to be closer to half, maybe even less, but that's fine. We'll put the additional money into our maintenance fee, our maintenance fund. $150 is absolutely going to cover what we need unless we've got some crazy tenants, in which case they need to be responsible for the damage they're doing. We have an 87% vacancy factor, $87 vacancy factor at 6%. $739 monthly cash flow. That results in $8,868 a year in cash flow. That's almost $9,000 on your $6,000 down payment. $9,000 a year coming in positive cash flow gives you 147.8% annual ROI. I keep telling people there are markets where we're getting 50% and better. There's markets where we're getting 75% and better. There are markets where we are getting great returns. If you look at this number, this is almost 150% return on investment. And we're getting that in this market from other properties. 147.8% annual ROI when people are bragging about 10, 20, and 30% returns on their investment, and even 40% returns on their investment. I don't know why they don't just pack it in and start investing their money in these markets. It is so easy, and it is a no-brainer. If you're not getting these kinds of returns, you need to be joining us on our real estate buyers events. 5-bedroom, 2-bath duplex. This actually fits the same scenario as the other properties. It's just in this particular property, they put one giant bedroom on the 3rd floor. Looks like from the photos that I saw that they're using it as a master bedroom. So 5 bedrooms, 2 baths. I don't know that I'd want to be in the master bedroom on the 3rd floor and have to go downstairs for the bathroom, but I'm going to leave it as a 5-bedroom for now. When we get this under contract, I'll send my property manager over there and ask them if we would get more benefit converting that attic into 2 bedrooms instead of the 1, or if it's going to give us greater rents, keeping it as that one big giant room. Because that big giant room could also be a family room. Like I said, it looked like they were using it as maybe a master bedroom, but it could be a family room. It could be whatever. And again, I'll leave that up to the property manager. They are on the ground every day. They know what's going on. They have a grasp for what's going to be the best outcome for that particular situation. I'm going to base this on minimum rents, and that's going to be $1,500 gross rents. As you can tell from that picture, it was a slightly larger property. $10,000 is what we put down on that property. It's in a slightly nicer part of town, and it's a bigger property. $215 a month at 5%, $150 for a management fee, $100 for insurance and taxes, both again high. $150 for maintenance, easily cover our maintenance needs for the year. Again, some months will be higher than 150, other months we won't have anything at all going on. Our vacancy factor at 6% is going to give us $90, and we're going to have $695 for our monthly cash flow. That comes to $8,340 a year in cash flow. Now, compared to the last property where we had almost 150% annual ROI, that 83.5% doesn't look as good. But remember, there are real estate investors that are out there happy that they're getting 10%, that they're getting 20%, that they're getting 30%, bragging about 40%. 83.5% is more than the 50% that I tell you can be getting, more than the 75% that I tell you can be getting. This is 83.5% annual ROI on your money every single year. This is the type of property you need to be investing in. This is money in the bank. If you're not seeing these types of returns.
All right, and there's a couple of more in there, but I think you guys are getting the idea. And these are properties that I'm literally pulling off of the MLS, properties that are literally being sent to me by my agents on the ground in Cleveland and in any of the other markets where I'm doing this as well. These are real numbers that hopefully you were able to see printed out in front of you. I sat down at my desk in November and I did 3 different ones of these videos with 3 properties in each video. And each one of them, the low end was around 80%. The high end was around 150%. And it is not unusual in markets to do that. Now, I don't tell people expect 80%, expect 100%, expect 50% and better. And then when they get there and they're seeing 80% and better, they're happy. I always try to be conservative. I use conservative numbers when I do my calculations. The numbers for the insurance and the taxes are high there. In Cleveland, I don't really know what my taxes are going to be until I actually close on the property, because the county reassesses the value of the taxes when I close on the property. So I use high numbers. My insurance is typically a lot less than that. In all actuality, I tell people to calculate your property management at 10%. But in Cleveland, I pay my property manager 3%, but only because they're managing hundreds of doors for me. So 3% is still good for them. But for an investor, calculate 10%. Sure. I take the difference on my taxes and I take the difference on my insurance and anything that's left over from my maintenance, and I put it into a maintenance contingency fund. I don't pay taxes on it. I don't take it as profit. At some point, you're going to need a new roof. You're going to need a hot water heater. You're going to need a garage door. You're going to need something. That money is sitting there tax-free, waiting for you to use it for that property or to borrow it from another property and repay it tax-free. If I don't take it as profit, I don't have to pay taxes on it. And I'm making plenty of money without having to take it as profit. I'd rather have that money sitting there in a tax-free savings account ready to cover any maintenance needs that I have coming up.
Yeah, and it's when you look at that stuff, remember, this is not some wild, crazy, multi-layered scheme. This is simply the value that you get when you understand cash on cash return and you look at, okay, the leverage of real estate is the thing that separates real estate from every other investment out there. No other investment can be leveraged the same way that real estate can. You can leverage some other things, but not near to the amount that you can with real estate, nowhere close. And so real estate becomes your most leverageable asset. Then you look at the hard asset value. Even in a crazy downtime, real estate retains more value, more of its value than anything else out there. So you got those two great things going for you. Now you have what really is a very simple system. It's a very straightforward system. Now, you got to have some expertise and some education to be able to do that. But what you're going to find when you learn it is that it's very straightforward. It's very simple. I didn't say it was easy. I said it's simple. And then you start looking at the kind of numbers that are going on in Cleveland and some other markets. And we've got a couple of markets we'll talk about at sometimes where the actual city government will guarantee your mortgage, which is a kind of a cool thing. Not very many cities do that, but there are a few that do that. So there's some unique opportunities that come along that you have to be ready to pounce on. So when you learn that I can go make 85% return, and again, Kevin keeps it conservative, I'm going to try to hit 50%. And look, let's just stay right there. Where else are you going to go this year and have an investment that's backed by a hard asset that you have the ability to make approximately 50% cash on cash return? Not many, not many. And if you find them, please email us because we want to know about them too, because I don't think we're going to be getting very many emails, if any. So again, hard asset backed, getting a 50% or better rate of return, cash on cash. Great job.
Yeah. And the other thing too is touching on what you were talking about. There are in multiple markets, Cleveland included, there are government programs that apply to everything from rehabbing or improving your property to changing your landscaping to rent assistance to purchase assistance for investors. And again, the way I got started in real estate was I was familiar with a neighborhood that had homes that were built in the late 1800s, early 1900s. The people who were living in those homes were elderly, and they were starting to go into care facilities. They were starting to go to live with their children. The city recognized that there was a potential for a blighted area if all of these people were moving out of this neighborhood in such mass in the next 10 years. So the city gave a $5,000 allowance that could be used for rehab for the property. If you purchased the property, you had $5,000 that could only be used for rehab. You couldn't use it for a down payment. You couldn't use it to pay for the house because it could only be used for rehab. In the 80s, $5,000 was a lot of money to be able to be used for rehab.
Sure. And it's free money.
Right. And it was free money that didn't have to be paid back. So I was literally in college having my fraternity brothers use these houses as second fraternity houses. We had beer, pizza, the Browns games, the Indians games, the Cavs games, whatever happened to be the season. And we're ripping up carpet, ripping up flooring, glazing glass, and flipping this house in 3 to 4 months with $5,000 worth of free money, you know? And then I'm turning around and selling these fresh looking houses to younger families with $5,000 worth of equity already built into the sale of the property. If I turn around and I sell it for exactly what I bought it for, I still have $5,000 in equity. And like I said, back then in that particular market, that was a good chunk of money. And I had free labor as long as I fed them and kept them entertained.
Well, it's the same thing here in Fort Worth. One of the things going on right now, and there's different programs everywhere all the time. But for the last few years, Tarrant County will give you a water-saving commode free if you're remodeling. If you'll go replace your existing commode with this water-saving unit, they'll give it to you. And it's like, great. So there's no point in ever having to, until this program stops, when you're rehabbing property, whether it's a flip or a rental property, it doesn't matter. When you're rehabbing, there's no point to ever having to go buy a commode. if you have a toilet lid missing, if you've got a crack, if whatever is going on, well, you can go down there and they will give you that. You got to install it. That's a small price to pay when you're getting the unit free.
Yeah. And it's also a matter of knowing what your strategies are. In Cleveland, for example, most of my tenants are Section 8. Section 8 will provide tenants with a refrigerator and a stove in Cleveland. So even if my tenant moves out and they leave their refrigerator and their stove, which they typically do because they're going to get a new one when they go to the next place, okay, I have somebody that comes in, they give me $50 for each one. So they come in, they take it out, there's $100 that I have, and basically it's a gift from HUD, from Section 8. The new tenants come in, they get a new stove, they get a new refrigerator. I don't have to worry about cleaning out the refrigerator. I don't have to worry about cleaning the stove. I don't have to worry about providing any of that and making sure that it works. They provided it. So if that refrigerator breaks down, that's on the tenant. That's not on me. If that stove isn't working, that's on the tenant. That's not on me. Now, I will have my handyman go over, the property manager will have the handyman go make sure that the stove is connected correctly, especially if it's a gas stove, but knowing what is available to you and knowing how things work is going to make it a lot easier for you. The $100 isn't that big of a deal, but not having to worry about buying a new refrigerator if it breaks down, or not having to buy another stove if it breaks down, or not having to be responsible for the maintenance on those appliances if they break down is a huge factor.
Yeah. And that's just, that's a great attraction for the people that are coming in. The HUD tenants, when they come in, that's a good deal for them. But what a great deal for you that here's the government giving you this. If they're in for a year, 2 years and leave, you can sell it. You can also take them out and put them in other units. You can donate them to Habitat, and Habitat will refurnish them, and then they will sell them off, and they'll take those funds and put it into a new property for another family. So great benefit. And what Kevin is harping on here, rightfully so, is education. You got to know what's available in my market for me. So you may be in a position right now where HUD doesn't sound like a great deal for you. Oh, I don't want to mess with it. I don't want to deal with that. And then you find out all the things, all the benefits, and we're going to do a specific Section 8 show here in the next few weeks. But when you look at all the things that are available to you, then you're going to go, hey, you know what? There's a lot of benefits here that I didn't know about or I wasn't thinking about, that makes that program a lot more attractive. And I've done a lot of different work with the government through the years, and I'm telling you, they're a great business partner and when you're receiving money from the government for doing a service, because they're gonna pay. And most of the time they're pretty doggone prompt at when they pay, and you're gonna get a very fair rate of return. You're gonna get a very fair rent rate. A lot of times you're gonna get a very attractive rent or a rate as well.
Yeah, and knowing the ins and outs of each of the different markets, because every single Section 8 department is different. They have different requirements, they have different criteria, they have different everything. So understanding that for Section 8, or even just understanding your tenants for a particular market. So in Cleveland, I love Section 8 because there is a Section 8 housing shortage. Public housing started in Cleveland. The first public housing developments were in Cleveland. That's where it started.
Did
In
not
those
know that.
years, what's that?
Did not know that.
Started in Cleveland. The first projects are actually in Cleveland. When other states were losing Section 8 money, remember back in 2007, 2008, when they were cutting back on Section 8, Cleveland and Ohio were getting more money. And that's because because they have the longest track record. There is such a shortage of Section 8 housing that every Thursday, property managers can take their properties, their available properties, to the Section 8 office, post them on a bulletin board outside. And there is a line of people with Section 8 vouchers ready to go that will literally run up to that bulletin board, tear off a number, and start calling, because there is that much of a shortage of Section 8 housing. This allows my property manager to choose the best voucher for the house, the best tenant and voucher for the house, because not every voucher is 100% rent. Some of them are 40%, some of them are 50, 60, 70, 80, all the way up to 100%. So if I've got a property that's in demand and I've got somebody who's going to be paying 100% of their rents on a Section 8 voucher, that means that Uncle Sam is paying that rent check to me 100% in the mail all the time. What's that?
That's the way I'm going to go.
Mailbox money. Also, when I do a property, when we fix up a property, we make it a little nicer than everybody else's. It doesn't cost much more to get the extra $20 for a chandelier for the dining room. It doesn't cost that much to put an extra $20 into the faucets for the sink. It doesn't cost a little more it doesn't cost that much to put a little more into it. It doesn't have to be a high-end chandelier. It doesn't have to be high-end faucets. But when these tenants are looking at apples to apples and they're looking at other Section 8 units that they could be renting from landlords that are basically doing everything as cheap as they can because they're trying to pull out as much money as they can, they don't realize that they're not going to get as good a tenant and they're not going to attract as good a tenant by putting more quality into their unit. I put more quality, more visual bling into the units, and I always calculate 6%. In Cleveland, I don't have a 6% vacancy factor. Yeah. I calculate 6% because that is what the vacancy factor is for the city of Cleveland. My vacancy factor is probably less than 3%. And I have had tenants for over 15 years in many of these properties because they're happy with where they are. They don't want to move. I don't blame them. I don't care. They're great tenants.
Yeah. And our clock is flashing here, letting us know that we're a little past our 30-minute podcast time zone here. So, hey, great show. Thanks so much for sharing your personal properties there. And everybody, keep in mind, you can go over to InvestorGuysPodcast.com and check out all these episodes, InvestorGuysPodcast.com. Share with your friends, so that we can do this more and more and share with you the things that are working in the market, what you can do to get great returns on your investment dollar, what you should be doing to not only supplement your income, but to ensure that if some goofy thing like what's going on right now happens again, you're not sitting there going, I'm out of cash. What do I do now? You've got money coming in. So thanks so much for being a part of our podcast. We'll see you next time. Kevin?
Also on Investor Guys Podcast on Facebook. Like us there. Yep. And if you need to send us an email, contact@investorguyspodcast.com. We'll see you guys all soon. Have a great week. Bill, I'll talk to you later.
All right, brother. Take care. See you, everybody.